Alright, welcome back to another episode. Today we're going to look at the distance formula. Distance formula, as its name, gives the distance between any 2 points and is written as d equals the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. Depicted in that picture there, it shows you visually what you're doing when you solve for this formula. It can also be denoted as d equals the square root of triangle x squared, where the triangle is called delta. It's a Greek letter. So you read it as delta x squared plus delta y squared, which simply means the difference in x, or the change in x is sometimes also called, which is just the subtraction. It's just a difference. Okay, so for our first example, we have to find the distance between 2 points. We have 5, 3, and 1, -2. So we're going to start with labeling our points. I'm going to call the first point x1 and y1, and the second x2 and y2. And then from there, we're simply going to plug into the formula. So we have the square root of 1 minus 5 squared plus -2 minus 3 squared. And so we continue simplifying. We're going to get -4 squared plus -5 squared. And then we're going to get 16 plus 25. And then we're going to get the square root of 41 units. And that's it. That's the exact answer, which approximates to 6.4 units once if you plug it into your calculator and solve. Now, the square root 41, as I said, is the exact answer, and depending on your teacher, your course, what it is the question is asking for, you should leave it in radical form or not. So read the directions to know if you should leave it in radical form or if you should solve it out and give an approximation. Know that your answer is incorrect if you leave it as equals 6.4 units instead of approximately 6.4 units. All right. You can also encounter problems like this, where you have to find the values of A if the distance is 5 units. So I'm going to label my points. I'm going to do the exact same thing as I did last time. I'm going to call the first one point 1 and second one point 2. Now, this time I know what D is. It tells me it's 5 units apart. So we're going to put a 5 there. And then I'm going to plug in everything I know. X2 I said is A. So we're going to put A there. We're going to leave that variable because that's what we're solving for. And then we're going to keep simplifying. We're just going to do the exact same thing. Simplify as far as possible. All right, so A minus 4 quantity squared is going to factor out, or excuse me, not factor out, it's going to simplify to A squared minus 8A plus 16, and 3 minus 7 is -4. To clarify, A minus 4 quantity squared is the same thing as A minus 4 times quantity A minus 4. And from there, we just FOIL, first, outer, inner, last. And so you'd get A squared minus 4A minus 4A plus 16, which simplifies to A squared minus 8A plus 16. And that's how I got that right there, just in case you needed to see that. We're going to keep on simplifying. We'll leave that 5 along for the ride. We're going to get A squared minus 8A plus 16 under the radical, which is going to simplify to a 32 in the next step. Now from here, there's nothing we can do. There's nothing further to do to simplify. So the only way to keep going is to get rid of that radical. So in order to get rid of the radical, we have to square both sides. So we're going to get a 25 equals A squared minus 8A plus 32. Squaring both sides just get rid of the radical. So if we move the 25 over, we get 0 equals A squared minus 8A plus 7. And so now we just get a little simple quadratic that we can factor out. We're going to get A minus 1 and A minus 7 as our factors. A is going to equal 1 or 7. Now, what exactly does this mean? You know, how can we get to answers? Well, let's find out. All right. So we have the point 4, 7 and A3 where A can be 1 or 7. So if we make a little picture, a little graph, then we can visualize what it is that these two possible answers mean. I'm going to make the point 4, 7 in this little greenish color, weird mint thing. I don't actually know what color that is. But anyways, 4, 7s are out there. And then A can be 1 or 3, or I'm sorry, 1 or 7. So we're going to have the points 1, 3, and 7, 3 as possible answers. So there's 7, 3, and there's 1, 3. And if we connect them, we see they're about the same line. So what does that mean? It simply means that both lines are in the same length. They're just in different directions. So that's why A can be multiple values. Because in the end, we're simply looking for the distance. Different directions. That is why can equal multiple values. All right. So now it's simply just practice from here. So practice. Okay. Let's say the question says find the distance between the points 1, -3, and let's say 3, 7. So go ahead, find that distance, give it a try, pause the video, and come back when you're ready. All right, so first thing we gotta do is write down the formula because we're good math students. So we're gonna do x2 minus x1 quantity squared plus y2 minus y1 quantity squared. And extend that little radical bar a little bit. So we're gonna say that I'm gonna mark 1 and -3 as my point 1 and 3, 7 as my point 2. Realistically, it doesn't really matter because you're just gonna end up squaring it. But all right, so there we go. I got 3 minus 1 squared, 7 minus -3 squared. That's going to end up being 2 squared plus 10 squared because remember, minus a negative is a positive. So we're going to get 4 plus 100. We're going to get square root of 104 units as our answer. Now, this can be further simplified into 2 root 26 because if you factor out a 4, you'll get 4 times 26 equals 104. Take that 2 out, 2 root 26 units, or approximately 10.198 units. Again, whatever is the best answer depends on your course, your teacher, the question. Now, let's say I ask you to find the variable a. If the distance between the 2 points, let's say 2a and 0, 3 is 5 units. All right, again, pause the video, give this a shot, and come back when you're ready. Okay, so I'm going to write the delta version of the distance formula. It's quicker. All right, so again, we know that the distance is 5 units. We know that the change in x is 2 units because it's simply 2 minus 0, so I'm just going to go ahead and leave it like that. Oops, sorry, that's a plus. Plus 3 minus a quantity squared. All right, skip the step there, but I hope you can understand where that came from. I didn't put which points were which. And then we're simply going to factor out distribute. We're going to FOIL 9 minus 6a plus a squared. We're going to get 5 equals 4 plus 9 minus 6a plus a squared, which I'm going to go ahead and add and square in the same step. So I'm going to get 25 equals 13, 4 plus 9, minus 6a plus a squared. Move that 25 over. 0 equals a squared minus 6a minus 12. Now at this point, you can't factor that, I don't think. So you can solve with the calculator or do the quadratic formula, or you could even complete the square for this one if you'd like. But regardless, you're going to get a equals 3 plus the square root of 21, which is approximately 7.583, or approximately negative 1.583. If you notice, that decimal is the same because we're adding or subtracting 3 from the square root. All right. Thank you very much, and I hope this helps.